Okay, now that was fucking awesome. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I was hoping for this whole vlog series. That was a cool fucking episode of television. That's some shit I can get passionate about. So this was episode 4. Meadowlands is what it's called. And, okay, so what's going on? A lot of shit happened. Finally feels like a gangster show. The metaphor of the two families is working out, finally, the way I want it to. There's still one annoying Tony visits his mother sequence, but I guess they just can't help themselves. So what happens in this episode? There's a dream sequence at the beginning, which I actually kind of dug. I think I remember hearing at some point that like later on there's an episode that's like the whole episode's a dream, and that was like a hated or loved episode of The Sopranos, but I might just remembering that completely wrong. I dug this dream sequence though. It opens the episode. It's not like they don't go over the top on the visuals. It's pretty simple actually. You know, people fucking and sexual imagery and death imagery, and you know his mother is the shrink and pretty basic stuff. But it shows Tony's still fucked up. Let's see. Chris gets out of prison. Or out of prison. I keep doing that. Gets out of the hospital, not prison. And he's all fucked up from getting beaten in the last episode, and he wants to go get revenge, but Tony wants to keep the peace. And Chris goes to visit his corner, pick up some money, and this guy tells him that it's not his corner anymore. And there's a reference to Meadowlands, so it's not about the daughter, like I thought it would be. I guess Meadowlands is like a section of the city, or like it's a, you know, it's an area. Like that's one gang covers that area. Maybe maybe it's a cemetery. Meadowlands Cemetery. I don't know. They only said it once in the episode. I didn't quite catch it exactly what it meant. Okay, so after he gets out of the hospital and tells Tony that he got beaten, Tony actually goes to defend his nephew and beats the shit out of his Uncle Junior's enforcer. And I never liked that guy. Tony clearly never liked that guy. Beats him up in the street in broad daylight. Staple guns like a parking ticket to his chest. Just right on. Mob shit's going on. There's like the guy in the hospital, the de facto Don, the guy who's the head of the families for the moment, because they finally revealed the real Don's in prison. The guy with cancer, he dies, so that shakes things up. And with Uncle Junior already making a play to try and take over Tony's areas because he hates Tony's nephew Chris, now there's like, oh shit, there's going to be a war, and they make a lot of Goodfellas references, or not Goodfellas, they make a lot of Godfather references. We're going to the mattresses, and they shot Chris's buddy through the eye, just like Mo Green. So, what the hell's going to happen? How's Tony going to play this? And he goes to visit his Uncle Junior, he's got the gun, and it surprised me. It wasn't a badass, you know, dialogue conversation, it wasn't a violent confrontation. Tony decides to let his Uncle Junior take the title. And that was like right on. I didn't see that coming. Where's this going to go? And then you got the funeral scene at the end, where they're burying the guy who was in the hospital, their buddy. And they're all in the coats, they're all in the suits, and there's a lot of like cagey mobster dialogue about, you know, he's got the title now, let him deal with it. And, you know, people, they don't even know we're paying off the Jackie, and I'm still the real boss. And, you know, they got the feds looking in, taking photos, and, oh, awesome. Like, I think it's a really cool move. I like the fact that Tony's not just reactionary, nor is he just like this emotional guy who has to go to see a shrink. He's actually a really thoughtful leader. And he let Uncle Jackie have the title because, fuck it, why not? He's like the Queen of England. He's a figurehead. He always was. Tony's still going to be the big man on campus. I'm pretty sure the other guys he's talking to earlier in the episode and at the end are the other heads of the families, and they make it clear they want Tony to be the head. So it was a smart move, avoiding bloodshed, avoiding having to kill his uncle. Tony's still kind of in charge, but not really. Like I really dug that. I'm really excited to see how the story develops from here, because with this new guy in charge, Uncle Junior, is he going to change things? Is he going to actually try and like overstep his bounds, even though he's the leader? I'm curious. There's a lot of good setup. On the family side of things, Tony's son gets into a fight at school, which I was already digging it. I don't know if it's just 'cause I'm a guy, so I therefore like guy stories better, or if it's that this tied more into violence and tied back into Tony's family more so than the daughter story did in the previous episodes. But I really dug the little boy's story. Tony Jr. gets into a fight, and, you know, Tony doesn't know about it, and Tony sees his dad, the kids, you know, Jesus, what's his name? I don't remember his name. Let's call him the bully. Tony sees the bully's dad, like at a gardening place, and they used to be friends, these two kids, and Tony's like, hey, good to see you, you know, our boys are friends, let's have a barbecue or something. And the dad's just freaked out and nervous, and Tony's got an axe at a gardening shore, and the guy's like, yeah, right on, Tony, I'll see you later, you be good, and then he runs away. And Tony stands there just like, oh shit, like, I haven't seen that before in a mobster story, nor in this series yet, and I like the fact that the idea isn't just, there's two families, the idea is that he's actually a pretty good dad, and he's clearly a pretty good, like, mobster, but one or the other they're gonna fuck with each other. I've seen the family fuck with the mobster before. What I haven't seen is that being a good mobster is actually making him kind of a shitty dad, and it bums him out. This episode had me from the jump because they play Mario Kart at the beginning, which is just, it hits my nostalgia buttons, and I like the fact that Tony actually plays with his kid. He cheats and stuff, typical dad move, but it just felt real. This vlog's all over the place, there's a lot to talk about, but I really liked it. I'm not nearly as focused as usual, just because I liked every scene in this episode, with the exception of Tony brings his mother some cookies. That felt forced. I guess it's in there because they have to remind the audience. There's a reference later on where his Uncle Junior says, you treat your own mother badly, you got her in an asylum. So I guess they had to show that to remind the audience, like, hey, Tony's mom is here. Because, it was back in the day when you only got to watch it once a week. You couldn't just, binge watch it or watch it like I'm doing every day. So I didn't like that scene, but whatever. What else we got? We got John Hurd, insert Home Alone joke, because he was the dad in Home Alone, playing a crooked cop, which is cool. It's nice to see little more hints of how this crew is actually connected to everybody. So they got a crooked cop who's Tony hires to just go like check on his shrink, because he wants to know who this shrink is. Who is this person? Like, does she have a life outside of this? And it turns out not really. She spends like 10 hours a day in the office, and she goes to bed early, and she goes on dates with pretty lame dudes, and yeah. And we're getting to actually see her as a character, and at the final therapist scene in the episode, the last time those two were together, she actually opens up instead of Tony, which is a cliched, shrink storytelling technique to have it flip, but it worked. I like that we're getting to know her. It makes sense that Tony would want to know who she is, since, as he makes plain in a lot of episodes, like, just being in a psychiatrist's office is kind of like a death mark for him. So yeah, a lot of things are developing, a lot of things are moving forward. I kind of wish this was the pilot, or at least what happened in the episode was the pilot, because, okay, picture this. Instead of the pilot just being, like, just about his psychological issues and passing out, if the pilot was, like, we meet the family, both families, and you find out that there's not really a leader, there's not really a Don because he's in prison, and this de facto Don is sick, and good friends with everybody, he's really likable, and maybe have him die at the end of the episode. So the end of the pilot would be, holy shit, Tony and Uncle Junior are going to go head-to-head. That would have been a better setup for the show for me. I think that would have been really cool. It would have made me come back a lot faster if the end of the pilot was the family's in jeopardy, the mob family's in jeopardy, Tony's in jeopardy with his real family because it's his uncle. Who's going to be the leader of New York? Who's going to be who's going to be the heads of all the families? That would have been cool. Instead they put it 4 episodes in, which I guess was just a way to like get to know the characters before like the plot gets started. I don't know if that plot is going to be those two knocking heads, but whatever. I enjoyed the first 2 episodes, and this episode rocked, so I'm happy. I'm excited. I'm trying to figure if there's anything else to talk about before I wrap this up. Plenty of catchy dialogue again. Lots of references to movies, which I like. Oh, like Chris. I still really like Chris. I like Christopher a lot, Tony's nephew. Even though he's a little like hot-headed and reactionary, and kind of, saying shit to Tony that he shouldn't say, I agree with him. I like the fact that he's kind of like, what the fuck, Tony? Like, I know he's your uncle, but we gotta do this. We gotta go to the mattresses. We gotta, it's gotta be like the end of Scarface. We gotta take people out. Because he's right. Like, he's been fucked with. His buddy got killed. His corner, his territories are getting taken away. And, he's supposed to be representative of Tony on the streets, and Tony's kind of being like a little bitch about it. Which is, that's some basic West Wing kind of plot right there, where everyone's following the president, but the president won't commit. I like that kind of storytelling. I like the idea of we got a strong man, or a strong character, doesn't have to be a man, just a strong lead character who isn't acting to his fullest capacity. Like, he could be, just with a little more effort, he could be a really, really, really great man, but he's too scared to actually tap into that part of himself. And I think that's kind of what's going on here. Like, I'm sure that this show won't just be Tony Soprano as one head of one family. He's got to be the head of all the families by the end of it. Probably by the end of this season, I hope. It'd be more dramatic if he's, top shit. But anyway, I really am just rambling. This whole vlog's kind of been a ramble because I just enjoyed myself so much and I liked it all. So I'm excited for the 5th episode, which is called College. I don't know what that means. Don't really care. I'm excited for the next episode, and oh wait, there's one more thing I want to talk about. The little boy finds out, like Tony Jr. didn't know his dad was a gangster. Didn't put that together. And I like that, because he's only, I think he's supposed to be like maybe 12, maybe 13. Fairly young. And in the course of this episode, he finds out his dad is a gangster. His sister kind of tells him and shows him on the shitty, dated internet, like, you know, it's like mobster webpage or something, mobsters.com. So yeah, he finds out his dad is a gangster, and at the end of the episode, again, music and image kind of came together for me to really sell the point. At the end of the episode, when they're in the cemetery for the guy's funeral, the little boy's leaning on a tombstone, just kind of staring at his dad, trying to figure it out. And his dad looks over and winks in slow motion, like, "Hey, how you doing, son?" And the kid's just putting together, like, "Look at all these Italian guys wearing suits. People are leaning in to whisper in his dad's ear. The FBI or whoever are there taking pictures." And his sister gives him a wink, or gives him a smile, like, "You should have known better. Your dad's a gangster. That's why your bully just paid you instead of fighting you, because he doesn't want to get fucked with." I really liked that wrap up. And I like that kid. I know that kid becomes like a big part of the show. I don't know, like I really hate like frustrating, annoying teenagers as a plot in shows. So I hope these kids don't become like the whiny teenagers, but we'll see. I wonder if Tony Jr. is gonna become part of the crew. I guess he must. I've seen the very last shot, the very last scene of Sopranos period in the diner, where, you know, Goodbye Stranger is playing, not Goodbye Stranger, Don't Stop Believin' is playing, and it just kind of cuts out, and you're like, what the fuck happened? I've seen that scene, and I know that, like, the final scene is the family's all together, so that's pretty cool. And I like that they're already setting up the idea of the father-son having a relationship. I love that final moment at the end. Anyway, this has gone on longer than I wanted it to, because I haven't really focused on anything, so my apologies. But fucking A, it's awesome now! It's actually finally a gangster show. Like, Tony beat the shit out of somebody and then staple gunned him. Like, that's awesome. More of that, please. Less of the, you know, domestic drama. More of the fucking gangster violence. And gangster talk as well. So yeah, that's it. See you in the next one, and TTFN.